I wanted to hop on live really quick. As I was typing up something, I thought, kind of felt like I needed to get on live. And I had been doing these read-alongs. So I'm gonna do one today for an article that I just posted, the most recent article that I just posted here. Where will 2026 take me as far as my Substack is concerned? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. I think I'm going to let it figure itself out as I figure me out more as far as what I want this space to be. But so we are here. Um, so I was just writing something down. To choose life is to choose to be fearless. To choose life is to choose to be courageous. I feel like the choice to actually live, because just because we're alive doesn't mean that we are actively or choosing to live. You can be alive and you could choose not to live. And I know that. Like, I've been there. So I know what that feels like. I know what it looks like to be in the land of the living, but not necessarily you want to be, and definitely not like embracing life. So let's do our read along. And this is my most recent article. You can definitely tap in with it on my dashboard. So we all have to go out of this place in the same way. And I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna discuss it. So we all have to go out of this place the same way. We take the same midnight train, although we get on it after traveling to different destinations. We know that the path here ends, yet we don't know when or how. And that leaves us to know one thing. Then that is that in between being born and meeting that final destination, we are given the space to live, to fly. Throughout navigating transitions, I have both lost the will to live and gained it. Both sides of the coin, driven by my own perspectives at the time. And as I witness more transition, I see the push and the pull of both ideologies to choose to live or to choose to die. So I give myself the space to see, and sorry, y'all. And I'll correct that by saying God has given me the space to see. God has given me the space, and I have surrendered to being in it. Sometimes it's an easy surrender, and sometimes I'm dragged into it. What I do believe is that anything that happens in this life is meant to be learned from. There is a lesson in every session of life, and I feel the lesson in death is life. I'm gonna say that again. There is a lesson in every session of life. Um, and I feel the lesson in death is life. Living it, yes, but most importantly, allowing yourself to live it, breaking away from the construct and creating a life, a reality in which you truly live on your own terms. This sounds truly revolutionary because we are overloaded within this matrix with programs that make us want to do the exact opposite and to instead be hypervigilant our whole lives, right up until we check out. I no longer want to live that way in the shadows, in the murkiness. I choose to not be comfortable in lower vibrational territories. Sitting around waiting on the world to end when worlds end every day in their own way is no longer my story. And that is the revolutionary work for me. Mm, excuse me. Choosing to live, especially when living means ejecting yourself from the motions of man and getting more acquainted with the motion of your soul. Living requires an attention to yourself that can be uncomfortable when you're used to giving away most of your attention to something outside of you. Truly living demands self-focus because you have to ask yourself how you want to do it, what matters, and who do you want to be. Throughout the scope of living, we answer these questions with the actions we take. So when we discern if we are truly living life, we must look at how our actions answer these questions to the world around us, to the world for us. To look, we must be still. To see, we must unveil through the noise. And to hear, we must embrace the frequency around us. And that was my latest article. You can find it right now on my Substack. It's the latest one, the self perspective article. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. This is definitely something I wrote for me. Uh, this is a testament of coming from a place. This is expressing a testament of like coming from a place of not caring if the world ended tomorrow to actually caring, actually having a stake of care into what the world could still become. Let me write that down. And I feel like, what do I mean by that? Having a stake in, going from it can end tomorrow and I not give a shit. Um, because I'm done. I'm not interested. So, going from that type of ideal and moving into a space of, oh, I do care. I am revitalized by the concept of life. I am revitalized within the concept of actually living life. For me, I feel like I've gotten there the more that I was able to my spiritual journey definitely helped me with that. Just and I want to talk about that too, because somebody asked me the other day, like, "Oh my goodness, you're going to church? Are you still on your spiritual journey?" And baby, this is the spiritual journey is soulmates. It's a part of life, and spirituality and God are not separate. not for me. God is the supreme spiritual being. So leave that right there. But so what does it take to go from a state of you don't give a fuck to a state of I care? Oh, I actually want to live life. I actually want to experience this. I am coming out of bed with the glee of optimism about my day. What does it take to go from like a despair of life to an appreciation for it? So for me, that crossing over, like that transition was rooted in the development of my own spirituality, my knowledge development, and I really feel like in that era, in that pocket of life, which I was going through like this period of despair, grief, loneliness, all of the things, depression, there were there were things in a lot of ways, God was giving me this opportunity to explore more of me outside what I deemed and perceived as traumas um, within this world. So the work and the transition, it definitely wasn't overnight and it definitely wasn't easy. I feel like it was all about changing perspective and coming from a place that's closed in to a place that's unbound. Because my spiritual journey really has allowed me to be unbound to where before my perspectives were very rigid, very square, very boxed in, very on the line, on the number line, perfectionist style. That's just how I was. But it wasn't until, trauma broke me down. And it wasn't until I went through this period of being broken down by trauma and being put back together by God's grace and by God's grace in the way of just all the wonderful things and people and experiences that came into my life that were like these breadcrumbs of leading me down this path to expand my own perspective about what this world could be for me and what this world could be for me, to me, outside of anybody else. Because what I do know, and if you've ever experienced like a significant point of grief in your life, you realize that at the end of the day, it's you and it's God. It's you and it's God. You when we come into this world, we coming in when we come into this world, it's us and it's God. From the beginning, before you have anything, you have God. And so you realize when you go through things, that's the duo. That's the duo, and that's always the duo. And so I believe through that you learn detachment, because I learned a lot of detachment. If you don't embrace detachment, then you can never lose anything and keep your sanity. Because the detachment teaches transition, um, learning to embrace detachment is a way to helps you to learn to embrace transition as well. Because nothing Nothing of this world belongs to us. Nothing. Not a material thing, not a person, not an experience. We don't own it. It is a part of this life. They're a part of this life, but we don't own people. We don't own things. We are blessed to be able to be a part of this experience with them, but we don't own them. So, yeah, detachment was a really game changer in what damn is this? Detachment was a real game changer as far as my transition from not caring if I lived or died. And I feel like that's different from like not being afraid of death. Because we're not talking about not being afraid of death. We're talking about being in a place where you're wallowing and you're choosing not to even be a part of the process of living. So I think I've had some major transitions of loved ones in my life. I don't talk about it often. Um, but I've had them, and we all have these things, right? We experience them in different ways. But if you're living, you're going to experience a loved one transition and go away. You're going to experience that grief. Um, it's not really something that we it's not something that you get away from. And that's why I say we all have to go out of this place the same way. Everybody takes the same way out, right? And that's death. Now it happens differently. The transition shows up differently for all of us, but we have to die from this life to live in the next. So in that in between part, like I was talking about, in that in between, what is there to do but to live? And one thing that I know that I've learned is that, man, this concept of time, whatever it is, it goes by in a blink of an eye. In the concept of the totality of life, this life is really short and it's fleeting. So I've been thinking a lot about just that in between. And I've learned along the way to just like salivate on the morsels of life because you'll look up and so much time will be in the past. So many things will be to happen. You'll blink, 5 years have passed, 10 years have passed. And we get in these motions. Mhm. We get in these motions of just kind of being here. And when in the motion, we forget to salivate on the morsels. We forget to salivate. We forget to, what to say, take time out to smell the coffee because we're too busy pouring the brew. We're too busy trying to hurry up and drink it. Uh, so I talk about perspectives. And I think that, I do feel that a change in perspective can save your life. A change in perspective can save your life. It saved mine. Because you're the reality that we commingle with. All right. I believe that it is all driven by perspective. It's what you think. It's what you think, what you say, what transpires. It's all created out of that. and lives out of that. Like, we live our lives on the basis of our perspective of what it is. We do certain things, we have certain actions based on our perspectives. We everything about is by perspective. It is not simply about what's going on. It's about how you see it, how you perceive it, how you what you feel about it. And that depicts its role in your reality. That depicts how your reality shows up for you. Example is like a home. The first thing I do what an example I'm thinking about is a home. Now, I don't feel like I live in a mansion, but to somebody, this is a mansion. From my perspective, yes, I have a nice house, but it's not a mansion. Now, but that's my perspective. But to somebody somewhere in this world, they will step in my home and they will be like, girl, you stay in a mansion. Perspective. So for me, it's a nice size house. For them, it's a castle. I mean, it's still my castle, but you know what I'm saying. And so when they get here, imagine them living in the home and the reality that they see themselves in versus me living in the home and the reality that I see myself in. This shit is all about perspective. I could be driving a Honda and perceive it as a luxury vehicle. Depends on who I am, where I'm from, and my perception about cars. Now, me, I might just see a Honda, but somebody else may see a luxury vehicle. And for me, I'm just driving around in a regular Honda, but to them, they're driving around in a Rolls Royce, living their best life because their perception is allowing them to live their best life. And I feel like, our perceptions are preyed upon a lot. Um, Social media is one of those things that push you out there because once you get all these different ideas and not ideas, but what's the word I want to use? Once you get these different propagandas, these different programs on the screen of, what's this and what's that, things can change your perspective all the time if you let them. But I do feel like we have the autonomy to be able to decide what our perspective is going to be, to decide how we're going to see things, to decide how things are, to decide the actual definition of things in our reality. Because again, go back to the house thing, like I'll say, baby, I'm in my mansion, right? I can change my perspective about that right now. But because my perception of houses is different from what I've seen. My perspective of houses is a certain thing because of what I've seen, what I've learned, my environment, right? So it may be a little bit harder for me to change that perception, but it can be done. It can be done, right? So we learn different perspectives from the environment that we're in, from things like, social media again, all of these the life propagandas of other people's lives and, options of this and options of that and what is this and what is that and what's good and what's not and what's rich and what's not. But you can dismantle all of that and let your perspective be whatever the fuck you want it to be. it goes back to, and it's something I realized too, we can't, that's why I say, like, I say a lot, your reality is your reality, mine is mine. Because we living on two different boats, right? And but my boat is a yacht. Now I don't care how you see yours, but I believe that I'm on a yacht. Now, to you, it may not be, but to me, it is, and that's perfectly fine. The perspectives are our perspectives are individualized, and I think it's very important to just claim. And I can perceive my reality however I want to perceive it. I can perceive the reality that I want to perceive for myself. And that is extremely freeing too. So you're telling me I do not have to subscribe to what everybody else is doing? You're telling me that they can say the grass is green and I can go, well, mine is blue green and still be okay? You're telling me that I can define my own perspective? Listen, 'cause on this earth, three people can be looking at one thing and everybody can see it different. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing. And it's a testament in the power to not only create your own reality, but be freed within that creation of your own reality. You ever seen people and it's like they living in their own world? I love those people. I love people who you can't figure them out, who you just don't know how, but they are, who have that sort of eye and that sort of belief, and it's just like, "Ain't the sky falling?" And they're like, "No, no, it's sunny, it's sunny, it's sunny." I love those people. And at times it can feel unhinged to be within your own perspective, within your own reality. People could think you batshit crazy, for real. Um, that's a powerful thing. So while it's not popular, I don't feel like it's popular to have your own perspectives of, what life is. But I do think it's absolutely necessary. All right, let me scroll. Let me see if anything else I want to highlight. Mm. So perspective is your own terms. Your perspective is your term. I say creating a life, a reality in which you live on your own terms that is driven by perspective. So, yes, it's revolutionary work to choose to live because it's easy to just go with the flow. It's easy to just be like, fuck it. That takes no work. That takes no work. And that just looks like, I'm just going, it's just whatever. There's no intention in the fuck it. There's no drive. There's just a lay. There's just a lay and roll over. So it is revolutionary to choose to live life, and it's even more revolutionary to choose to live life from your own perspective, from your own reality, from the core of the truth of your soul, because we all are these unique creatures, these unique beings, and our blueprints are extraordinarily ours. And while it may not be as easy to build upon your own blueprint, especially when you're the only one got the plans. You know how the blueprints for the building work. You're the only one got the plans. Nobody has the plans. Nobody know how to build the plan. God knows how to build the plan, right? But God, God said, "Baby, I want you to figure out how to build the plans." So you have this blueprint, and you don't see anybody else's building this. You don't have a general contractor on your project to help you. Uh, you just know what your truth is. And it's revolutionary to just go by your own blueprint and not feel like you have to double check with somebody else's blueprint and just focus on the perception of your own, focus on the reality of your own. So, again, to look, we must be still. To see, we must unveil through the noise. And to hear, we must embrace the frequency around us. That was our deep dive today. I'll see y'all next time.